big congratulations from Open Signal Chief. Just to introduce, we've got 2 awards on the trophy, both covering different aspects of the 5G speed experience for consumers in Taiwan.
Good morning, good evening, everyone. I'm Chi Cheng, the president of FarEasTone Telecom. Today I'm going to talk about 5G clinical intelligence. Some of you probably were wondering, what would a telco have to do with clinical intelligence? So I'm going to share with you that what we have done at FarEasTone that use 5G and the communication platform we created to enable the telemedicine services in Taiwan. So to begin with, let me give you a brief recap of the 5G landscape worldwide. Okay. So there are 61 countries now with 5G networks live in January, and then 401 million 5G global subscribers. And it is projected that it will reach 1.8 billion in 2025. So Taiwan has entered 5G era last year in July, and right now we have about 2 million subscribers. That accounts for 8% of our population. In Taiwan, there are 5 telcos, so you can imagine that the competition is very, very keen. So we actually bid for the 5G spectrum at 3.5G for 270 megahertz to be divided by 5 telcos. So the auction continued with 261 rounds until one telco dropped out, thank goodness. And the auction commenced at US dollars 4.74 billion. And it is like 17.6 million per megahertz. And FarEasTone, that we have got 80 megahertz, that's the second largest, and then in the best location, that is for us. And since the launch, the commercial launch in Taiwan, Taiwan actually was ranked number 4 initially, just within months of the deployment. And then recently it has advanced to number 2 globally in terms of the 5G download speed. And FarEasTone, on the other hand, we have won the number 1 position from the get-go, so it has been 2 quarters in a row. And right now, our FarEasTone coverage for 5G nationwide or island-wide has been 73% and about 96% for Taipei City area, that's the capital area. And then so what does 5G do and what can it bring that made us, the telcos, spend so much money for it? Okay, so let me just talk about it. So there are 3 major advantages that 5G has over 4G technologies. First, it is the enhanced mobile broadband. In other words, it's the bandwidth, the big bandwidth. So I was talking about we got 80 megahertz, but then in 4G we could use 5 megahertz to start a service. But then with 5G, you need a bigger broadband, so to enable more advanced services. That's simply put it. And then the speed, so therefore the speed is much faster in 5G than 4G. According to the practice we see in so far, that it is really about 6 to 9 times. It varies, depends on different networks, but then it's about 6 times to 9 times faster than the 4G speed. And it enables or enhances many of the digital entertainment, such as the video, so the 4K and 8K videos resolution can be supported, and also the multi-view, and also cloud gaming, etc. Okay, and that is more for the consumers. Now for the industrial applications like IoT, you probably don't know. Right now, there are about 5.3 billion mobile user subscribers worldwide. But then in terms of the IoT connections, there is already 12 billion. And then in 2025, it is estimated it will be about 10% increase or growth for the people's connections or the subscribers. But then for the IoT connection, it is going to double to 24 billion. So the kind of growth for IoT, it is massive. And so 5G is good to support this large number of machine types of communications, and then it's about 10 times more than the 4G. Okay? And then for the third one, that is the ultra-reliable low latency. And this is especially important for critical applications such as smart manufacturing, because in the factories, while the conveyor is moving, so this is like at a speed. So the latency and non-disruptive is very important. And then also for the connected cars, that has been, getting a lot of attention these years. And then finally, like the telemedicine, right? Telemedicine requires like a precision and then also no lag in order for the doctors to operate remotely. And that is like the ultimate stage of the telemedicine. So in other words, because of 5G, we also entered the era of clinical intelligence. With the help from big data, AI, and medical IoTs, they're all enhancing medical research and development. And it is all good and it is all needed. However, the problem we are trying to solve here is how to make these medical clinics available anytime, anywhere, and that is the telemedicine. And what requires is big bandwidth, right, for high resolution, because if you want the doctor to see the patients at a remote site, and then through the transmission of the medical images, and that has to be a very good resolution. And also the transmission has to be real time, and then so that they would be just like they were in the same room, and with very low latency, with lots of data and files and medical images that can be transmitted in real time. And also the communication platform that can bring all these parties together, right? And then the number of connections that will be able to support at any given time. Because when we talk about telemedicine, we are not just talking about one hospital and one clinic, right? And then we are talking about many to many kind of combinations or the communication sessions. So 5G is the one to support that. We actually have started this area in FarEasTone many years ago, but 4G just wouldn't cut it. On the right-hand side here is an image of the MRI scans. So as I know, right, in the past when we do the CT scans or when we do the X-rays, 4G can still do it. That's no problem. But if you look at for the MRI scans, there are so many images that are generated for the same scan at the same time. And each requires such a big resolution, high resolution. So 5G has to be the technology used for this purpose. Okay. All right, so there is a problem, and then I believe this is not unique to Taiwan. That is the urban-rural medical resource gap. And so in Taiwan, there are 2.7 million people. That is about 12% of our population here. That is, they are living in areas without sufficient medical resources. Okay. And the biggest problem becomes transportation, which is a challenge for folks there to access to medical resources that are hundreds of miles away. And the average life expectancy of the mountain Aborigines is 10 years shorter than the average of the total population in Taiwan. This is research by research, and it's real and it's sad.
我本身是原住民，然后会来偏乡服务，最主要是因为我是公费生。像我自己蛮幸运的，就是我也是回到自己的部落。其实偏乡的问题就是交通的问题，交通的问题其实是我们偏乡医疗花费最多的地方。
所以我们总共要自己跑车。昨天我去妈去医院，我是花1500。我去看我去领药吗？这边有的话比较方便。
就是远距医疗刚好可以透过科技来弥补这个所谓的交通造成的困扰，所以远传在远距这方面是帮助真的很大。
远距医疗比较像是网路取代马路的一个概念，因为医疗很严谨，我们必须做一大堆的测试。那一直到今年5月份，在台东终于看到服务真的落地。
我们的卫生所基本上肩负的就是地区医疗的责任，在偏乡，我们其实希望能用科技来解决医生不足的问题。像现在有机会可以进到5G那种影像的清晰度、声音的传达，然后整个没有 lag。那我相信未来远传5G 进来之后，我们提供的诊别就会更多。
因为远距可以缩短他看病的时间，那这样就是我们把偏乡的医疗往上提升。那这是由医学中心去给它支撑，我想这样的话才能够解决跟都会的差距。
所以我们一开始就是跟远传合作的远距门诊，也就是你光是建立一个远距的点，你要花很多的设备费用。远传在设备方面，只要我们提出他们做得到，他们真的都有提供最好的设备。
远传为什么要这么积极的做远距诊疗？其实我们发现人口的老化的速度比盖基础建设还来得快，所以我们必须要跑得更快。当我们行动网络5G 一旦完成之后，我们希望就马上就可以把这个服务推展出去。所以远传能做就是及早帮台湾做准备嘛。
So here's our 5G telemedicine solution that FET has created. In terms of the functions that it supports, it connects the local clinic center, or we call the health center in those rural areas, with the local hospitals or regional hospitals and the medical centers. So in the middle is the communication platform, which is cloud enabled. And on it, there are several functions, and then that are facing the patients and also that are used by the doctors in the hospitals. So functions such as the online appointments, and then set up the communication connections, and the online real-time, the video conferencing and video recording, and because those sessions need to be recorded, just in case in the future there is medical disputes, these are all evidence. And then also how we get access to the medical files elsewhere, all in real time, right? And then of course the medical images that are taken at the local, at the rural side, and then have them uploaded in real time, transmitted to the doctors at the urban hospitals. So all this, all the way to the diagnostics, and then also the future appointments to be made, and also the prescription. And all one end-to-end, all these functions are supported by this communication platform. And then it is applied to TAITRA CT as the first one. And the communication platform itself has several modules and that are critical to the working or the success of this telemedicine service. That includes very good user interface. And this is not a typical user UI. It also needs to be familiar with the scenarios or the SOP or the procedure, the flow, the information flow in the hospital when a patient walks in, right? This is if it's in the real physical hospitals, and when the patient comes in, what would they do? So you do all this virtually. So the UI for the patient has to be all taking into account these kind of human user factors. And then also, of course, the interface for the doctors that to be able to access their other reference files or records for the patients in real time. And also, as I mentioned, not only the video conferencing, and we need to do the video recording in real time as well. So there's lots of transmission that happens in real time. And then the delay actually is very good. So right now we are looking at 23 milliseconds two-way. So it's one way about 11.5 milliseconds. So both ways, end to end, is about 23 milliseconds. Okay. And then so the first one that we apply to, as I mentioned, is to Taiwan County. And then we started with a few rural areas or rural villages. And then so we have the healthcare center, we have the local province hospital, and then we also have the medical centers there are actually 3 medical centers that help support the rural areas in Taiwan province because it is very big. Okay, so if you look at that, right, so far there are already more than 2,200 online visits that are completed. And then remember, these are the areas that do not have these kind of specialty doctors at all. So in the past, folks will have to travel, and this includes 2 offshore islands that the people would have to fly or by boat, right, to come to the inland to get the medical treatment or clinics. And then also this platform supports not only just two-way, and then it's a joint clinic sessions as well, because like I said, we have province hospital, and then we also have medical centers. So sometimes we need the doctors join sessions to discuss the patient's case, and that can be supported on this platform as well. Okay. All right, and then here's another case of we use telemedicine for, that is diabetes medical care. As I understand from this research, diabetes healthcare actually requires a lot of regular checkups. That includes the metabolism consultation, and then to check on your eyes condition, and then also your blood glucose monitoring. So these regular checkups will require a lot of trips. And for folks that live in those rural areas that are hard or far to reach, and that is a chore, definitely very inconvenient and very hard to do. So we use the telemedicine in the new Taipei City area, right? There are two rural areas. One is close to the northern shore, and one is in the mountains of this province. And then it's supported by the FarEasTone Medical Center. That is also in the same group that FarEasTone Telecom belongs to. And then so we cooperated with the hospital and then provided this service. So this is an integrated diabetes medical care that we provide to the residents in the rural areas for New Taipei City. As I mentioned, that our government has seen the success that we demonstrated how this telemedicine works, and because it is really working, and then the kind of service and the benefits that these rural residents were able to get. So the government has made a big step to allow these kind of services to be offered to all the rural areas in Taiwan, that they will have 5G supported telemedicine, which is really a big advancement from the regulation perspective, because in the past it is not allowed and it's not supported by the insurance, but now patients go to use these health care services that they can get reimbursed by the government's insurance as well. Okay. So we did all that before COVID-19 hit us, right? And then so as COVID-19 impacted the whole world, and everybody knew it drove the needs for zero touch. And then so that also changed the medical model. And then so this is also another, I hate to say great opportunity, but definitely it is the time where telemedicine can be more frequently used, and then really this is where the medical resources in such a dire needs, and then so everything that we can do, we want to be able to help. Okay. So just recently, as the world probably already knows, in the past year, Taiwan has been pretty lucky. We lucked out. We were blessed that we were pretty much intact from the COVID-19, but then just recently that we had outbreak. So we are experiencing what the rest of the world was experiencing a year ago. So we see, the number of the cases have raised, have increased, and then it is kind of scary. And then a lot of people don't want to go to a hospital, especially if they are not COVID-19 related. So we work with FarEasTone Hospital to make this telemedicine available, and then we created the app, the user app on their phone. Remember, in the previous cases, these applications are actually available at a healthcare center. So patients still need to go to the nearby healthcare center. So these are not on their mobile. Okay, but then now with this need, so we actually create a mobile application for it. So it becomes a doctor to patient kind of communication, direct communication. As this is just like kicked off a week ago, we try to make this available to more people. And then so not every single function is right away available on the mobile. So we are a little bit limited by that in terms of the number of patients we were able to help. But if you look at the pictures, right, so in the hospital it's all empty because nobody dared to go near. And then in terms of the number of patients, that has been very low. We are talking about non-COVID related. But then now with this telemedicine, so folks with other kind of disease that need regular checkup or need a medicine or need a doctors to see how they are doing, they can all do this by this telemedicine service that we just started to offer to the urban areas as well. Okay, so looking forward, I have to say this telemedicine service to us is not just a business opportunity. To us, it's about social responsibility. So my team and myself, we found it very rewarding that we are able to use the 5G and the communication technology to really help people and like to bridge the resource gap, the medical resource gap between the urban and the rural areas. So it is all very inspiring, and then very blessed to work on these kind of projects. And looking forward, as in the video, my manager Chen has mentioned, Taiwan is aging really, really fast, and it is estimated that we'll enter super aged society in 2026. In fact, since 2018, we already reached age society, because now we have more than 14% of the population, they are more than 65 years old. So this fast aging process, of course, will create more problems in terms of the long-term care. There are just less younger people to take care of the older people, right? So, and then also for the older people, whether they live in urban, they have the challenge with the mobility, right? And some of them live in higher floors, and then the building may be without elevators. So you can imagine we have cases like that where they can really use the urban telemedicine service. And as I mentioned earlier, our government actually has relaxed the regulation and allowed the rural areas to first apply these telemedicine service. I think with the COVID-19, that changed the model, and hopefully the government is going to do more with the urban areas as well. But then for now, we are doing it as a social responsibility, as a service to help the hospitals that have contacted us for this kind of a service, and so we will do all that. But then looking forward for the senior people, there's definitely more needs for the home service, for the home telemedicine. And of course, to do that, we will also need more medical IoT devices to be available, because after all, 5G and the communication only enable what can be done on it. But then in terms of how to measure or how to detect if there's any problem, or just to check the health condition of the patient, we still need lots of medical devices that are connected or that can be connected on the 5G, and then to support this whole telemedicine services. So this is an area for multiple partners to work on, and this is not just by telco from the communication perspective. Okay. And then there are definitely future enhancements for telemedicine. As you may see, so far I haven't mentioned AI, right? We were just kind of really doing the infrastructure kind of thing for the telemedicine to make it available anytime, right? And then overcome the distance challenges, the transportation challenges. But then with more and more this telemedicine services and then IoT medical devices, there are lots of data that are being collected, and that can be analyzed with the big data or AI kind of technologies. So we can see the real-time AI-assisted analysis, detection, or prediction, or prevention that can be done, right, in the near future. So there's a lot to be done and can be done in the telemedicine area as well. Okay. Okay. So other than the smart solutions in the medical area, that is telemedicine, FarEasTone team has also engaged or devoted in other areas for the smart ICT as well, such as smart city, smart manufacturing, and also smart retailing, to name a few. And then a lot of these really requires like a partnership across several verticals, because you need not only the communication technology and IT that we bring to the table, there is also the operations technology, which varies from vertical to vertical. Even in the same vertical, and then it varies from one company to another, right? So smart manufacturing is just two words, but then what can be manufactured, and then the process that will be in place for each type of manufacturing is all different. So how do we make all this benefit from the telecommunication, or from the 5G networks or 5G private networks, for example? It's a big area that I believe a lot of us can work together. So we welcome partnership to co-create and collaborate in these smart solutions and applications. So if you are interested, please feel free to contact us, and the QR code on the right-hand side is for your reference. And I hope the talk you find interesting or helpful. And thank you, and I wish you all well. Goodbye.